even asked, and so then they worked together at that level. My mother also started the League of Women Voters. She was on the planning group, started the League of Women Voters in Union County, Pennsylvania, back in the 50s. So it's really kind of cool to be able to be raised in a household like that and understanding. And the other thing that I was very honored with is our church, my church in Lewisburg. We always went, there were a lot of migrant workers on the farms in Central PA back in the early days, 50s, 60s. And when I was being raised, every Saturday, our church in Lewisburg, Baptist Church in Lewisburg, we would take food to the migrant camps. Mom always took me to the migrant camps and I played with the kids. I just don't forget any of this. It is unbelievable. I'm just so honored to be able to be here tonight, and it's really an honor for me, and thank you my parents for raising me the way they did. Having said that, now we can move on to, we have questions, and what we're doing is, Barbara or anybody from the ECO or somebody, if I'm explaining this wrong, let me know. But we have questions that we've already been given, and as have people received cards and pencils? Okay. So as we are working with the questions that the board came up with, the committee came up with, we'll start with those. As we work through those, please write your questions down, and I will be able to jump up or go around and pick up those if they have some questions as well. Oh, you got it. Okay, thank you. Well, and then Kelly and I will go through the questions and take turns asking those. So that's why we weren't sure if we and our gentlemen on the panel are going to take turns answering. Did this work? I
couldn't get it, so just pull that out.
Okay, so then we can just hand it down. Might be easier that way unless you want to stand up and here. Something in common right there. There we go. So first question. I'll start with this first question. Remember, this is what the panel came up with, group subcommittee. And then once came up with what do Democrats and Republicans have in common in 2026?
I was trying to get at I was asked to do this, and I'm very happy to accept it. I think it's a privilege. The topic could be looked at in a couple different ways. And I know there was difficulty on Harvard's part getting a lot of volunteering in this day and age. So the question specifically is, what do we have in common in 2026? And I think we have more in common than we have different, especially when we're thinking of our community, where we rest our heads at night, where we live, where we work, where we raise our family. We have to have so much more in common than we have separated, right? And as your district attorney, I have to be a district attorney for all the people, not just Democrats. So it's important, from my point of view, as district attorney, as the chief law enforcement officer of the county, as a minister of justice, because that's what prosecutors are called. Pete, I think you probably recognize that from back in the day. We need to look out for everybody. And so one of the things I think we all have in common is the pursuit of justice. Right? We may take different paths to get there, but I think the pursuit of justice is one of the most important things I find. And part of that also is a need, right? An internal motivation, almost an instinct for safety. We want our communities to be safe. We want our children to grow up safe. We want our vulnerable population, the elderly, the sick, to be safe. safe from physical harm, from danger, from exploitation. You know, we want to do things that'll promote that. And I worked on this for several years now as this attorney. I started seeing the seeds of the dilemma of increasing incarceration and tougher sentences and things that were designed to warehouse people, but weren't really solving the problem. Many people who were in and out of jail, revolving, who were trying to arrest our way. I think more and more people, regardless of their political affiliation, are willing to give second chances out. You know, our letting ban, the Law Enforcement Treatment Initiative, which I started back in May of '23, gives chronic, low grade offenders, but who are chronic and who are addicted, a second chance by diverting them away from the justice system through treatment. And Monroe County has, in a short space of time, become the premier letting programs in the state. And our county commissioners have been very, very generous in giving us the funding to help promote the letting program. We have a social worker, a peer specialist, who is a recovering addict and had suffered homelessness. He can relate to people well. He's driving around in that letting van, he's the letting van, he's interacting with the community. He worked closely with my office, law enforcement, so he could have access to criminal histories, trying to see who's eligible for this program, and we're constantly expanding them. And I know I work closely with Bill Parrish, the sole Republican on the panel today. But Bill has been working as a county detective at the DA's office, but for crisis intervention, for helping bridge that gap between the law enforcement profession and the mental health profession, because there's been an explosion of mental health related police calls. And these are very serious things, they're very specialized things. And in a short space of time, Bill's work with Carbon Monroe Fight Mental Health has really increased the level and numbers of officers trained with the 40-hour crisis intervention training. I think the stats are great. When you look at them, you'll see a very small percentage 3 or 4 years ago who were CIT trained, and now it's over 2/3, and soon it'll be everybody. So these are just some of the things. I don't want to take out all the air and turn it on now to Susan.
So, thank you for inviting me to the panel. What we have in is the Constitution of the United States. We are the people. And as we the people, we believe in the democracy that our family grand experiment of democracy that the family was doing. People left where they were to come to start a new, in a new place where we got to worship the way we wanted to, love the way we wanted to, be the people, have people that represented that we voted into office. It didn't start out, but it's an experiment that is still continuing to grow. So I think that, and if we continue to believe that we, the people, can make it grow to where it really needs to be, then we can get there. A lot of this divisiveness that we find ourselves.
I'm also glad to be here, more honored to be here. I'm a little of view. I'm going to clarify that a little bit, listening to Sharon talk about the role the parties had at home, the different parties, and how it her. I did not know what party my father was in. It was never really a discussion. As chief of police in Stroud Regional, PSU, and now with the PA office, I didn't wear my heart on my sleeve because I talked to parents at times where they were reluctant to call 911. And my two granddaughters, 8 and 10 years old, would pick up the phone and call 911 about a clock. No fear. But when a mother had a fear of what a uniform response may be for a home, it's a problem. I always considered myself a village elder, the children and youth board, NAACP. Member of many different organizations now helped starting the CIP program back in 2010 was happening in our region. Mental health came with this idea of what they knew and how they would respond to crisis situations that would be called into a 911 center that could only dispatch an ambulance, fireman, or a policeman. Usually when there's a mental health challenge, there's a fair risk of safety, so they're going to send a uniform. Sometimes individuals with mental health challenges have had interactions with police that haven't been warm and pleasant. And now they're the first person at the door when they're in crisis. So we've developed a program of training for the officers, revolving around recognition that conduct may have different mindsets. It may appear to be criminal in nature. Our tools for to battle those breaking the law. We need to train them to recognize the motivations behind action, the course of action, and the safest both for ourselves and for the public. So as where CIP has really grown and we're working on both collaborative response. We're actually looking at some point in time, the mobile crisis that is going on, it's called the data, or the call, when we make them work on. And then that be able to, because there is a safety issue, and police are needed. A lot of these. So, again, my position for this county is to be one of the village elders looking over the entire county. And I didn't want to be picked. I still don't want to be picked into what.
Thanks so much for your responses. I'm Kelly Lewis on the Republican side of the moderator. And I'm also the borough manager of my hometown of East Stroudsburg. I'm very honored to be back in East Stroudsburg a couple of now. Like Sharon, I also grew up in a bipartisan household. My father was very Democrat. My mother was very Republican. My father's father was Kennard Lewis, a longtime attorney in the county and very prominent in the Democratic Party. And my mother's mother was a ward leader and Bangor, PA for the Republican Party, and she wore the Republican Party understated. So our family dinners were always kind of animated. And when you're at my father's side of the family, it was pretty Democratic. When you're at my grandmother's side, it was pretty Republican.
And then when we were kids, what we're going to Republican or Democrat, it's an interesting journey for everyone. Because a lot of us are the party of our parents. And we were in a bipartisan household. That's why we had to figure things out. And I always think back to visits to Gettysburg. And I had 9 ancestors in the monument of the Pennsylvania Monument, and it really made an impact on me, and Abraham Lincoln was a hero in our household. That's how I became Republican. And I stayed a Union Republican, and I was served in the Pennsylvania House with the Union Republican. I fought for the living wage, still do. And so a lot of crossover in my life between Republican and Democratic policies that played out. That plays a part in how our parents see things and things you learn in school. And I think that's great for us to be here today because there's so many more things in common between people in Monroe County. Certainly you can find differences if you watch TV, they'll point them out. But if you don't watch TV and you get involved in the community and you're helping out, it's not part of it. If you're cleaning up, a borough beautification day, nobody asks for your party ticket. And if you're volunteering for a local nonprofit, they don't check your credentials at the door. Because this community needs a lot of help. And there's Republicans and Democrats willing to do it. There's, I think, 27% independent. So I'm really pleased to see this effort. And glad to be here. And my second to our panel is what are the common traits and values that Republicans and Democrats share?
Well, I started to answer that before, a little bit, the interest in justice. But I just want to briefly circle back to that. To me, that not only includes safe community, but it includes the transparency, the data. Don't you want to know what your police department are doing, what your prosecutors are doing, what the court is doing? And that disconnect exists because there's not a lot of people that even know how our government works, what each office does, what's in our VA's clear jurisdiction role, and what's somewhere else, what's in another office. And it's really a shame. And we do outreach with our youth. My office has, for the first time, 2 paid internships with the district attorney's office. We've had interns over the years, many of them, but this is the first time it's been paid. Again, thanks to the commissioners for approving that. But we're able to get people who are interested in learning about them, maybe want a career there, or maybe want to be prosecutors, but have no idea what we do. They never really get that training, that education in school. Where's the civics? The basic local government stuff. The field trips. We do a little bit with mock trial and things like that, but we really don't have dedicated curriculum. And that's a shame because the young people who are coming up, all different races and backgrounds, local and transplant, they're really missing out on setting roots here in the county, working within the local structure. They really don't know what that's all about. No idea. And it's a shame that there's a way to reach them, to do something comprehensive and regular and accepted in each of the school districts. That would be wonderful. Because where are we going as a nation in the future when our kids don't even really have a grounding in what the government is, what the Constitution in practice looks like? So that would be something. And I think we all have that desire in our heart, regardless of party affiliation. But if we could translate that into joint action, working together, and maybe even starting small, but building up, I think that will go a long way to making it grow.
So value that we share is that we want our neighbors to do as well as we do. So we like we'd like people to have hope that you can work one job and pay rent and buy food and occasionally have a good night out. So I think we value the fact that this, as members of the society, that we want each one of us to do as well as we can with whatever effort we put into whatever we need to us. We want to be able to work with the way we want, or choose not to. We want to be able to speak our mind without what we must speak to who are. We want to be able to be open that to our children. I think people value that we've been all for what I did. I to that my parents. And I'm hoping that my children and their children that and we're coming to a point in time where I'm not sure that's going to happen. But as a community of people, we can make sure that we are making sure that everybody is doing the work that we do. I'm a member of the board. I think that being able to live your own home and live comfortably, healthy, and safe in your home is an important part of the community. That was something that we did a good job. Right? Transfer generational wealth to the next generation. All these things were values that I thought most of us still. So I think those are the values and traits we still have, no matter what our party affiliation is, because doing that is what we will.
I want to go back again to the political party issue. I think Mark Sharon was the principal on funds way back in Hill and engaging wife was the PTA component of it and supporting the school. I had no idea what party she was until she went commission. None. Ellie Lewis. Same thing, we worked together in different projects, with the chief of police and everything like that, until he ran for it. And Mike, I don't know that I knew he was a Democrat. I don't even know if he was a Republican before that. I didn't even know he switched party, because it had no bearing on our interactions and what we were doing for the community. And may stand sounds stereotypical. But safety and security is first order of business. We live the life that we want. And the life we're looking for has always been described as a plan of opportunity. And that's the responsibility of our government, the responsibility of the voters to the government, is to provide for that safety and security in order to obtain those goals of property ownership, home, employment in the field that we want to be, friends and neighbors and churches, and that feeling of true community wherever you went. Zoom was a great thing because you can't be everywhere at the same time, but it's taking away the face-to-face opportunity that I think is needed more get people in the same room that have these discussions face to face. And I appreciate being invited here. With a good answer, but we all are looking for leaving the world in a better place for our children. And that's a little bit of that.
Okay. Yeah, before we go on, any of the three, the two questions that we've just had, does anybody have any, from the audience, have any questions regarding those two questions at this time? Anything this one? Okay, Maureen, this,
More or less clarification, I don't even know that's like, I taught, and I also kind of, we might have other. And then when I ran that party, I switched parties, and I became that, so I did that. But Pennsylvania has a civic sports that replaced the, World Fishing now. Because I travel so often, we pride ourselves in scouting role that we had, particularly Bob Stokes and myself, the professional software teacher. What happened was Pennsylvania immigrated. They have civics, and it's the old thing. We bring, of course, the water and drink, but there is an active civics program. In fact, local school in the 70s, they had civics for 8th grade. Now we have a curriculum in Pennsylvania for civics for all students in 10th grade. And that is, in the curriculum, where I retired 13 years ago, I think it replaced right after I left. So there is a civics program. And I do applaud any interaction there that can be done, but I think it's very important to realize the Pennsylvania State has curriculum, and also with that have a very stringent program to follow. And I think it's important to inform people of that. And there's also various electives that we have for political science. So I think that's important to clarify that the public school and the private school are not remiss in that. This is the curriculum. Say that's.
thank you.
Hey, everyone, my name is Charlie Stecker. Doing some of our hearing, the first thing I want to do is my input on what do we have like here in the moment? What do we have like? Too busy looking at gift wrap and gift what we have this time. That being said, hearing about the mental health crisis, the ability, the question is there an ability at this time to provide long-term support for a person in mental health crisis? So I'm going back to the particular person involved we had so years when he was in a mental health crisis. At that time, didn't appear, maybe we did, get out there and help that young man, and then help all person advocate. Yeah. So are we have something like that yet, or are we on the road to that? That's when we go out and working with that?
We do. I talked about co-response. Talked about training officers to recognize, we're not going to be a therapist on a bridge, but to train them to recognize signs and symptoms, indicators of what's going on, and try to do their best to get everyone off that bridge safely. It's a hard situation to control. There was an extended amount of time on the bridge to resolve that as fast as possible. We all wanted everyone to come off that. And that's the focus of our response to mental health crisis now, is to have those professionals working together as a team, responding hopefully better to crisis before we're on that bridge. How does the police best? Sure. To better not only have the police get their stabilized situation, but then connect with resources and services follow up. For police officers, we have monthly meetings in the 3 different counties, Monroe, Carbon, to talk about crisis situations, crisis responses, chronic crisis situation, how to resolve them, how to strategize the best resources, so that the police have an idea what's going on and resources are allocated and get feedback on how the role we play. If we respond to a great crisis where a situation is exigent, that someone's at risk of death or serious bodily injury, themselves or someone else, we have an obligation to maintain that safety and work towards an involuntary commitment to make that safe. But again, a lot of times that's not the first call we get. So to recognize that and know who to send them to, there's a lot of crisis services and overlapping services that are available. Police don't know. One of the things we have is a printed resource card with numbers for the data. These are a lot of numbers that are only for law enforcement. We don't have to go through a phone tree when we're trying to contact them. And we're smart enough to know that they're going to stick it in their pocket and forget to take it out when they wash their uniform. So it's a hard credit card type of document, two-sided with these numbers for law enforcement. And we also have triangle pamphlets for community resources to the handout. But if we're going to do that handoff to price, we resolve and de-escalate, and things are at a position where we can leave, and depending on the time of day or night, we've got an obligation now to do that handoff then, not to give them a number. Okay, call this in the morning, call this when you get a chance, because they may calm the situation down, think they're going to follow through, but what is the likelihood? Call that service. Okay, here you go, talk to this guy, and now I'll do. So it's an evolving process in order to meet those prices as early as possible and get services in place.
You want to encourage somebody to ask questions? If you wouldn't mind, please use the cards and pencils to write out questions.
Tony, I will pick them up. Okay.
And I apologize, I didn't want to get up here, but I feel like I have to say something. I am very good friends with the Halls. And what happened to Christian was a tremendous tragedy. However, we are here to talk about common ground. And you know what? That tragedy brought us together as a community. That tragedy made District Mancuso, District Attorney Mancuso, come up with new policies to deal with these types of issues. And he hired Chief Parrish to assist with that. So that's how we've established common ground. Not going backwards. I pray for Christian Hall, I pray for his family, but we are here to talk about common ground. And again, that's us together. That's what caused the District Attorney's Office to create new policies. So let's focus on that, please. And please, if you have questions, comments, please write them down. Thank you.
Okay, moving on. And we've been asked to respond in about 2 minutes each. So we go through more topic areas. Okay, my next question would be, and I find this very interesting. How can we foster trust in our public officials?
My position, and more of a personal position than a political one, is to keep the public informed of the rationality resulting in those decisions. Trust in the public to understand the greater scheme that we're working for when politicians, people in political office, are creating new legislation or new policies to address situations and to apply the empirical data that support those decisions and trust in us to absorb that and advocate for it based on the grounds for the decision.
This question, when I read did quite make sense to me, but I think I would question trust in our public if by expecting them to live up to whatever it is they said they were going to do when they ran for public. People run for office and they do. Well, one of the things that was this trust between them and ourselves is them living up to the principles that they came to us with and said, this is why I want you to vote. I'm going to help you do this, and this. And when you do that, then I'm going to come to you because I trust you as a political person who is going to look out for our best interests. So when they don't do that, when they say one thing and do the exact opposite, I don't know how I can force it. Because now I don't believe I actually have no idea. So I think that really is the best way that we can force to trust with our public by them doing what they say.
I agree, I think that's a great point. The devil's in the detail. So when you're making commitments, hold people to specific and then measure it at a time. I think that's great. And I don't think it's only elected, any public. How do we know our police officers? But how do we know that borough members are doing what they need to be doing? Our council, county commissioners, supervisor, doesn't matter. Elected, non-elected, any public. So you have to have an interest, right? Find out what those jobs are all about, what they entail, what are the priorities, who is the candidate, who is the official, what do they stand for, and the public meeting, figure it out. It's a lot of homework. But without that public scrutiny, people tend to get away with it. And Monroe County is crazy. Founded on April Fool's Day. And before it even had its own court, it was embroiled in election. There was a fight who the county seat, which county seat had. Brownsburg, Bill, or Utah was Delaware Watergate. And they had two elections, and they were riddled with fraud. They had to do a third. There were indictments. The folks from Utah were indicted. And they were going to go to trial. We didn't even have a courthouse. Fight County had to do the trial. And then the president judge dismissed several counties indictment. Then he gave the file over to his associate judge. The associate judge says, this is quote. I'm not learned at the law like my colleague here, but I've been a politician, I've been a representative in Pennsylvania. And so I'm going to dismiss the whole indictment. So that's our shared common heritage at Monroe County. And I just think it's hilarious because the more things change, the more they stay the same, right? So how do you pierce that? That scrutiny that you were talking about, that searching inquiry. So I think that's important. And I think that I welcome that. And I didn't know if you had that civic stuff. I was dealing more with the interaction between, my office and other offices and working like through internships and one-on-one. I think that would be great for kids if you have that. And just looking at the whole COVID thing here, one of the most heartbreaking things that I think we should all be concerned about is the explosion in mental health incidents. Every cop you talk to will mention how frustrated they are. And Bill has done great work, and MHDS has done great work to raise the level of professionalism. And I've personally seen that professionalism increase. We've had multiple standoff situations where someone's threatening themselves or other, and it's hours and hours of negotiation, but I've seen the confidence increase. And in our LEDI program, piloting off of a pilot program in another county, we launched a mental health component for LEDI too. Much more sticky of a wicket because of the mental health. It's like an onion sometimes of the issue. But it's something that I think is needed, and I think it's going to get more impetus. So look out for that.
Thank you. Last night we had a borough council meeting in East Stroudsburg, and we covered about 90 topics. So, and big fleshing out of everything in front of the borough. Dan Gagliardo, one of our borough council members, is there. And the nice thing that happens is everybody gets to go around and take a piece on the issues. It's a very nice forum, and everyone's very respectful. And it's really nice to participate in the council meetings that way. And one thing I remember from last night is the crisis we're facing because our school property taxes in East Stroudsburg are so high. And we still have to operate our borough, our water company, our sewer company, make everything affordable. It's a challenge. And it's expensive to live here. The rents are so high, and wages, don't support the rents that have happened in East Stroudsburg. So I think that's something that we're working on and trying to find solutions for. And there's so many issues. We're over 100-year-old borough. Our construction's very old. We replaced 100-year-old gas lines this year. We hear about it because the roads aren't fixed yet. But in that, and even in our meetings when people come, most of the time, everything's very simple. Questions are presented and asked, and they get answered, and it's nice to see. The experiment is working in these little towns, and maybe on TV it gets a little animated, but we've got thousands of municipalities in Pennsylvania that work. Run their, the buses on time. So in all your different respective careers, how are you finding ways to get people to work together, even though they may disagree on what you're trying to do?
I go first? 2 minutes? Well, you have to be pragmatic and you have to be flexible. You have to learn to work with people and compromise. But the fundamental guiding light should be the data. Facts. If we can't agree on the facts, then we're going to have problems. So whatever is needed to be done to determine the facts on how to solve a problem, right? I mean, that's the key. I'll give you an example. We don't even know the actual recidivism rate for county offenders because the measure that is currently employed is have you ever been in this facility before? That's it. But you could be in that facility for a violation, revocation hearing, something like that. It's not necessarily a true number. But using that figure, we're talking about 78%, which is incredibly high. 78% of today's inmates in Monroe County Correctional Facility have been there before. Now, is that recidivism? No, not necessarily. The BCCD, they use a different definition, right? And that definition is more effective. So now we're in the process of trying to get the funding and the fellow named Dr. Orr, who works with PCCD, to develop the criteria so that Monroe County can have an accurate count for recidivism. And why do we need that? Because we don't want to see people going back. We want to see people who successfully can be re-entered in society, who can become law-abiding and productive members. So we have a re-entry coalition, patterned after the federal strive plan. And we're trying now with this coalition to have a big splash in the community, get everybody interested to be a part of it, and provide for transportation, to therapy, rehab, work, get employers interested, to have jobs for people and housing. Those big things that are needed. And in the process of doing that, you know what we found out? We got to work together to get people ID. Most people don't even have IDs. They have no idea how to get them. But we got to get them physically to places to get them. We have to help them through that process. We have to give them training so that they have some kind of employability and build off that. So those are the things that probably, I'm sorry. Just hand it over.
Agreeing without being real. This is a very important part of academic. You have to be willing to hear and try to understand it. If you think that you're only being attacked, then you're going to, then your natural reaction is to attack. But if you try to understand where the person is, where the person is trying, what the person is trying to tell you. I was a hospital administrator. And so, and in the emergency department. And so people came into the emergency room at the worst point. Right? They were feeling well, they were not. So what they did need was for my staff to be uncooperative, right? I'm coming to you, I feel like you need to understand that what's happening to me and understand that if I'm coming at you in a very aggressive way, I'm at my worst point in my life. I just need you to listen to what I'm saying to you and be respectful and try to help me get to where I need to be. I think a lot of what happens, we don't want to understand where people are coming from. We're always assuming that we're being attacked. And we're not. We just need to remember if we were in their place, how would we want to do it? I think ultimately agreeing to be just, or to agree and not be disagreeable, listening, being attentive to what a person is saying to you, and trying to help them, and trying to understand what they're from so that you can get them to where you need.
I agree about the listening component, absolutely. And I think in those discussions, the ability to advocate your position rather than spending so much time evaluating the opposition. Point out the strengths of your position, how it better serves the goal that you're both striving for without going nuclear against the other plan. Use rational discussion, point out your strengths. Okay.
Okay, so we'll take one of the questions from the audience this time. What bipartisan committees or initiatives have you supported? So there's three parts to it. So what bipartisan committees or initiatives have you supported? How was your experience and what were the challenges?
Start with Suzanne.
So, oh, okay. So, forgive me. This one, you know, at first, I was really torn because I feel like, you know, we want to get to, my thought process was we're starting the conversation in the middle and we're not, being cast up. And then I realized that it wasn't as I thought. So, and this is a good one. This could be a good one. If we start in the middle, we can get to a better. Because there's a virtual command where my attention is. We are more alike than the other. And when we think of ourselves in those, then we should be able to get to a positive place where we want.
Want to repeat that question one more time?
What are the committees or initiatives have you supported? How was it experienced?
I'm going to answer that every committee I'm on is bipartisan. Because it's haven't been on any forum except for situations like this one. Police accountability with much bigger concern with meeting, like after Floyd, everything, and meeting at Dansbury Park with the citizens to answer those tough questions. Police use of force. And, you know, being a member of the Community Youth Advisory, Karen and I were on the Big Brothers Sisters Board. The mental health and CIT getting involved with that. Working with all the aging. I mean, there's so many different organizations in this community that support the community in many different facets. Being aware of that myself and being a part. I can go to Children Youth and Charlie was on the I might not have anything to say at one. Just being there and listening, but then there might be a component where my expertise comes into play, and being there at that point in time to say, this is why this may have been judicially or through the Children Youth Protective Services part. But being present, and again, I'll just go back to everything I participated.
Yeah, that's what's throwing me off about the question, bipartisan, maybe nonpartisan would be that I would relate to better. Bipartisan, Republicans and Democrats forming some kind of committee or meeting and be attending, I can't think of anything. No. I don't know. But nonpartisan is all of the above. I mean, everything that I've mentioned so far. One example that kind of came out of left field was that there were concerned residents in South Stroudsburg who wanted to meet with the commissioner. There were several meetings. I became aware of them. It was about the large number of homeless people living up in the woods behind there and engaging in drug use, self-harm, all kinds of right? A fear of maybe burning happened. It was very dry summer. So, you know, people were arguing, they were fighting. I started going to the meetings, like I listened to them 1, 2, maybe 3 times. That's what I did. So I started becoming a little vocal, trying to solve a problem. So I got my detectives together, we talked about what we could do, and we did outreach. We created a messenger system to reach the homeless and work with the Flame Church, greet the people, and get an idea of who's who, where they are, what they need, and start reaching them, bringing them coffee, bringing them something to eat, trying to talk to them about, hey, we can get your housing. Detective Lippincott, my soon-to-be chief detective, She was very, very helpful in organizing that effort and getting the homeless people in a better place, because then they started feeling better. Yeah, maybe this could help. And we started doing things that we were gonna then adopt later for making people legitimate. The IDs, getting leases prepared, getting landlord willing to take them in, getting a handle on what their incomes were. And so within a short period of time, all but one person had voluntarily left and found housing. So that's an idea that, really took root. If you could do that with, but the consensus was it'll never change. But it did change.
So one of the fascinating things when you serve in the Pennsylvania House is when you vote, all the Republicans and Democrats are in big grids. And if you vote green, that's yes, and red, that's no. And a lot of times it's a partisan vote on an amendment. A lot of times it's everybody's green. And for the big votes, and you see this often in Harrisburg and Washington, is it's not just voting on an easy thing. They always put something in there. It's hard for both parties to vote. And the poison pills kind of thing to make it, you really got to think hard about pushing. And what was fascinating when it looked like something, when the green was going up and it was getting close to 102 votes, and if it didn't get there, all of a sudden everything turned red. There's no one to put up that tough vote. It's not something that you see, because on TV they don't show that. I always thought that was fascinating. And this question about, the rise of independent voters, that creates another whole dynamic in politics, because they aren't in the grid, of the Republican and Democratic side. And I know in Monroe County, in a lot of the districts in the House, there were 20% independent. So I just wanted to ask, this seems like one of the most political questions of the night is, how do you see the rise of independent voters in Monroe County as an impact? How you ran for this thing, or does it have any other implication for the other two candidates?
You want to start with that? Yeah, I mean, I knocked on all kinds of doors. I did a really bipartisan approach. I answered questions. I didn't care if there were Republicans, Trumpers, Independents, Democrats. Generally, I did get a Democrat. But in terms of the outreach, the message was that common ground. And I'll tell you, more often than not, it seemed like I could reach people out. It really did, especially when we talk about these needs and these aspirations that we have locally. So I think it was a learning experience for me, because it was a very practical way of doing things. I think in a way it helped prepare people in DA and engaging in all these initiatives that require the same kind of skill set. Persuading people is something I've always done with trials anyway, but never on this scale. So it's something that opened my eyes to the possibility. I don't know if that answers your question.
It's an interesting question. I think the rise in independent voters is to create a moderate position. And the main reason I'm not an independent is I wanted to be more involved, voting wise and everything. So I picked a party, and I'm a Republican, I lean conservative, a lot of the values, but I believe in bipartisan collaboration in order to get something that is best for everyone. And being able to vote in a primary and help select those that will be running in the main election is a priority for me. And then the connection that I have with legislators, I really appreciate it. I mean, Rosemary Brown, Congressman Bresnahan, have personally reached out in different ways and means as I reach out in dealing with the community, and we don't talk about politics. We talk about and addressing the issues. And Rob Bresnahan came to the FOP meeting to lay out his position. There was a follow-up call 2 months ago to the FOP to hear what our concerns were for police officers. That kind of connection, go back to the previous question about having public faith in our government. That really built that. But I've also worked, obviously, with the commissioners, and they don't have to be a member of my party. They have to express my value and what I want to see in our government.
I think one of the reasons is the way that Democrats and Republicans are so, and so independents are feeling like there's some things I believe on this side. So I need to find the right mix between this side and that. Because I'm of an age where I remember where Democrats and Republicans, I've been around since I was in. So I remember Democrats and Republicans after the conversation, they went out. They did what they did, but they could actually leave the wherever and go out to dinner and eat and have a discussion. We were a lot more, we were more alike than we were unalike. So that independents are saying, we need to go. I don't need to pick, I may not need to pick you, but I need to be able to go forward and not be too in.
Okay, continue on. And Sue? We have our 2 chairs of each party here with us tonight. Okay.
Okay. I am Christine Wilkins. I'm the chairwoman of the Monroe County Republican Committee. And I'm very proud to see efforts like this come together because I feel like we have a lot more in common than we realize. We focus on these things, we can make our world such a better place. And I just want to say I'm available if anybody ever has any questions or anything I can help with. There's a lot of different areas of the community, and I believe service for all and service for everyone.
Hi, everyone. Sue Hunter, I'm really not the chair of the Monroe Democratic Party. And listening to the panel tonight, I think that we need to find a way, perhaps, we're talking about concern for our neighbors, concern with affordability, and housing. And from my experience working public libraries, I'm in a safe place for everybody. There were people who were at the point of crisis, there were people experiencing problems with housing, food, that kind of thing. And it was often difficult for me to figure out who to call. There were a lot of calls to police because the person who had a mental health crisis, is there someone else I can call? In terms of housing, is there a choice? There are lots of past, they didn't have kind of a way to get cell phones. Delighted communication with, so I look forward to being a part of that.
Okay, and looking at one of the questions that came in from the public, I think following that one question and our two ladies just now, I think it's important. This is the question. We are bombarded with messages from the media that separate us, emphasizing the extreme position. And then the question that goes along with that, how do we change the conversation to focus our common ground value?
Well, Kelly kind of said, don't follow the media, right? They offer social media, don't listen to all the news shows, they'll drive the economy. That's one way. I do maintain a Facebook page and a website for the DA's office. I personally write all of the articles that appear there. I know we don't have a very vibrant local newspaper at the present time. So I try to compensate at least on the criminal justice arena by being informative. And again, if you look at those articles, they're all factual. I think that's the key to find the facts for what we do. I think that's the way to insulate yourself from, so much falsity, rumor, versions, and it's just not helping the mind either. Yep, an opinion.
We get bombarded by the media, so that separates us, emphasizing extreme positions and sides. So how do we change the conversation, focus on common ground?
I needed you, because in my campus was talking about, okay, that is, we have never known like this. We need to come together, and we need people who are concerned about what's going on to do the things they need to do to make sure that we stay on track, that we are addressing the needs of the people in our community, because that's how we get through. And we need to set aside our Republican and Democratic leaders and work together for the betterment of our community. That's the only way. We're going to be in sorrow, stay home, go to foods we like. We need to at least come. I'm not saying we have to do it once a month. We need to come to like maybe once a quarter. We need to come together and have these kind of discussions where we tackle, not the same, have no questions like that. Pick an issue, tackle, and figure out how we get through it, because we all are in need of help.
And how do we engage the silent majority? We have the loudest voices are coming from the polar opposite ends of the spectrum, where there is very little opportunity to negotiate anything. And we have a silent majority that is allowing that to happen. And I do not have an answer to the question of how to get that. But we need to somehow motivate individuals to look at the broader picture and not just their own personal, save whom they have a high-paying job and everything like this. We need to see how it affects all of them.
I'll probably let Sharon wrap up with the last question. I just want to say thanks for coming out tonight. Your support of this type of event, really the beginnings of the foundation to make things work and just work together. And it was great that we had both party chairmen from the county here tonight and say nice things. And from my experience, you know, the party people were out of breakfast, you know, back when I was involved, running around getting votes. You were together and all of a sudden they fired you. You sat there together and then you went out to different events, to the Heart Association, the Cancer Dinners, you're all together. And I think when you said that, the one thing I don't see, and I hope it does happen, some of my greatest fun in politics was the dinners that were bipartisan. You sat around and you learned how Western Pennsylvania Democrats were so different than the Southeastern Democrats. Because I didn't know. I didn't know what politics was. Hey, look what happened. They split for Trump. Who would have ever thought of that? So many people are changing their mind. Shift going on. The one question I'm going to let my aunt share.
That's true. Our children were kind of raised together. And his mom was Aunt Sonia and I was Aunt Sharon. So here we are together. But this is the question that came from the audience as well. And so why did you, the panel here, why did you agree to be on this panel?
It did.
My friend Barbara. My friend Barbara, who thinks her, I literally said, I please don't say that. And I said, oh, I said, really think about it. And then and because I'm not, you know, I got to, so I came to the, I did here. I did but I knew that if I wanted to make a change, I had to get involved in the community. So I did. I came here and I got involved with the I got involved with the NAACP, was here, member of the NCNW. I got involved with Habitat for Humanity. I did those things that I thought were going to help me make a difference, right? Bring me to the water and help me to drink and get to know the people in Pennsylvania. And I think I've been rewarded. My husband will tell you that if this was 20 years ago, I would be table because I'd be in the back of the room and not ask one. But I've met people that I admire. So I've met people that I believe in and have made me a better person. So that's part. I just a leap of faith. I felt I could answer the question. They say something that would resonate with somebody in the room.
Barbara. She's relentless. She lied a little bit too. I like being a village elder. I like community. I like to be promote community. I was a member, not only was, because the organization only exists on paper right now, Monroe County United, which is a similar. And back in 2021, we started an event called Faith Blue and You. The national organization, Faith in Blue, where individuals got together the trying relationship between law enforcement and the community they protect, and how can we build on that? And they determine if you're going to reach out to a segment of society and the community, what segment can we get the broadest spectrum of attendee? We decided with the congregations of individuals, all different beliefs, customs, and responsibility to community development. Once Monroe County United created out the picture, NCNW now, Michelle and her team, this Faith Blue and you back we missed last year. This will be our fifth annual on October 3rd this year. And without our community involvement, or in the planning committee now, what better way to see the commitment to this community by all the services, by having this event, having the youth of our faith do praise dance or choir events or watch a role play of a traffic stop and have police officers demonstrate why and how they approach a car for their safety, why things may be mischaracterized, and what we're looking for, and how best to help us not lower our guard, not be so intense coming up, what we can do to help back. And then we will also switch the role, and this is the best thing ever. We've taken 4 police officers and put them in chairs simulating a car, and had the students do the traffic stop. And if you want to see stereotypes, those jackbooted thugs of students that walked up to that car were scarier than any police officer ever saw. And the police officers laid back in the car going, with the flag streaming the traffic stop. And that led to a conversation on more serious topics, especially around Floyd, when police had a lot of questions to answer about why and how that can happen. And those conversations need to occur, no matter what party.
I agree with those. That's very well put, though. Barbara, you promised me a hot buffet. No, in all honesty, Jennifer, my friend Jennifer's case, that apparently mentioned my name to you, and you called me. I couldn't say it. And looking at the title, man, I mean, who knows what kind of questions, they didn't want to make anybody happy. Well, you know what? I care about the community. I want to be able to be transparent and share my thoughts. So let's do it. You know, I mean, that's fine. And you know what? I really enjoyed it. So thank you for having me.
Close out. I have one good thing to say first, if I may, and I'm not making this up. This is a true statement. Our house, we watch a lot of the World Cup. Anybody else watch a lot of the soccer World Cup? Yes. But during the South Korean versus Mexico game, this came up, and the commentary, the people that were making announcements said that both teams came to the conclusion, and to me, this is common ground, is the way that they are going to play the game is controlling the ball in a respectful manner.
That's,
From two world soccer teams. You know what I mean? All right, so we got ball, control the ball, you know, respectful ones.
Giving a round of applause for our and of course, for the Common Ground Coalition members, and you all stand. So this was. Thank you. We, this coalition started, I think it was back in February when I was angry about what was going on in the world. And I just sent out an email and said, we need to have a strategy to bring people together. Who's with me? And we had a group of people that said, how do I sign up? And we started having meetings. And Barbara said, we should have a forum. And we had a couple ideas, and we hope some of you will join us so we can roll out some other things. But Barbara had this idea of having this forum, so we went back and forth. Is it going to work? Are people going to show up? People going to be afraid of questions? We got to make sure we, temper the questions. And it turned out fabulously, and I really appreciate. Please give Barbara a round of applause. And again, we want to thank Alan Peters, who's on the committee, who helped us prepare the vacation and get ready to that. Chief's Parish correction or something. So we started Monroe County United in 2019. Not 2020. Bakewood, and I have to say this, so, I remember going to the NAACP for the first time, it was in 2017. And the first person I saw, went to a meeting, was the parish. And I'm like, what is this white guy doing? But not only was he at that NAACP meeting, he was at every NAACP meeting. And then he and I became really close because first we were on the legal redress committee together, and that's a committee with the NAACP where we look at issues relating to racism, discrimination, et cetera. So we got to work for a while with that. Then we worked together. We were founding members of Monroe County United. And I didn't know he was a Republican either until a couple of years ago. And I'm like, oh my God, I would never have known. But wonderful, and again, we look for upstanding, respected members of this community to be on this panel. And but Barbara did a tremendous job bringing everybody together here. And please, one more round of applause for everyone.
This woman broke my heart. She did. She came to me, her 16-year-old son was going to drive with a bunch of friends. One on board to see a drive-in movie. And she said, I don't want to let him. I don't know what's going to happen. 4 young black men getting stopped on the road going to this. That's heartbreaking. And I started to talk to her. She said, no. I'm comfortable in Monroe County. It's just when they get out in the highway, and the state police are out there, like, how do I protect them? That's heartbreaking to have that call from a mother, from an organization whose responsibility is to keep everyone safe. It didn't matter culture, color, skin. A mother is a mother. What better reason to strive to do that?
Barbara, you know what you have to say? I'm going to come over. Barbara, late night phone calls and emails, you have to say. Thank you all for coming tonight. Been wonderful to bring us tonight. You all want to go home and have dinner, so good evening. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. 30 seconds. Okay, go ahead. Let's go ahead and make a comment.
I heard mention about Monroe County United so many times here tonight. And the person who started that organization is sitting in this room tonight, and she's been very quiet. And the person that started that organization is Dawn Holmes.
Well, she didn't start it. She asked her to be started. She started the conversation.
She started the conversation and they chose the name.
This was in a book that I read 10 to 11 years ago. It stuck with me. Share it with you. The tricky thing of living in a society of freedom is that everyone else has to. Some people can't have it. They can't accept their neighbor making a different choice than they do. That's the tricky one. Letting someone else have the freedom to choose. The choice isn't really a choice if there's no choice. It's inherent in real choice. It's inherently in freedom. That everyone can make their own decision. For us to be free, we have to come to terms. We have to understand that not every decision, not every decision is good. People call me a hero. They say that because I fought them. Except that was the easy one. The hard part, the part that really mattered is what happened now. That's what I want you to remember. Not because I fought, not because I killed, not because I survived. Remember me because I tolerate. Remember me because I accepted. Remember me because I understood that I'm not here to make you.
Good night, everyone. Thank you so much.
Welcome to the Empire One Show, where knowledge meets action. Yeah. We break down barriers to financial literacy. Speak truth to power, real conversations. Voices that inspire change, challenging the status quo. Tools for building wealth, taking control. Your future